Good evening, Cherries fans, and welcome to the first live show on Up the Cherries in all departments. We wish this live show was in a happier moment, let's just say, but we've got to discuss this game. Of course, we all went to Anfield, didn't we, on Saturday? Was full of optimism to start off with. However, that was dashed within 6 minutes, really, wasn't it? And then, well, we'll get to the rest of it, and we'll dissect it bit by bit, which I think we need to do. Before I do start discussing this in a bit more detail, please do keep in mind you can get involved in this show. All you need to do is click on the link in the description, the StreamYard link. It will bring you into the studio, and then, of course, I can bring you in one by one to speak to everybody. We can go to a maximum of 6 people in the room at once. So, fill your boots, and please do share this show around all Bournemouth fans, all Liverpool fans, all Wolves fans, and every other fan as well, because be quite keen to hear from them. Please, no Southampton fans. You have been beaten 9-0 twice. We've only done it once. So we're still better than you. But there we go. That's probably going to prompt them all to come on, isn't it now? I've done it, haven't I? Famous last words. Before I do that, by all means, grab yourself a coffee. I am just going to play the Dental on the Banks video for you. Guys, do visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk to find out exactly what they can do for you. We do have a guest already. We have got 10 people watching, so thank you so much, everybody watching the show tonight. We really do appreciate that. But let's welcome on our first special guest. It is somebody that Matt did an opposition preview show for on the Anfield Road TV YouTube channel. Welcome, Jack. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. And sorry about the weekend, boys. I do apologise for the result anyway. But as I was speaking to Matt, I wasn't going into this confident. I didn't fully, as we'll probably speak about tonight, mate. I didn't expect a 9-0. I would have been, I was saying to Matt, when I on the pre-match build-up show, would have been happy with a 2-0. But yeah, as I mean, thank you very much for having me on, boys. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. And thank you so much for joining us. So before this match, of course, Liverpool had drawn against Fulham, drawn against Crystal Palace, was beaten by Manchester United. Sorry to remind you of that, Jack.
All
And
the
then
teams.
you come up against us, and we had a bit of optimism driving up to Anfield. It was an early start. It was, to be fair, it was an early start because of me, really, wasn't it? I turned around and I said that Brian was going to pick us up at 6:15, wasn't it? Was it 6:15? I said, Matt.
6:15. 6:15. Yeah. Didn't
Yeah.
need 7 o'clock.
Yes. So my fault. I'm no good with times. Thank God I've got a little clock here on StreamYard because otherwise it would be bloody useless. So we had that little bit of optimism, but of course after 6 minutes it was pretty much all gone. Was it the sort of reaction that you expected, Jack, after the result against Manchester United?
Yes and no. Like, obviously, it's our biggest, obviously, Premier League win anyway. Obviously, we had that Palace game, it was the last season I've seen before, where we went to Selhurst Park and we won 7-1. But we all wanted a reaction. But I think the attitude was much better. And I think, obviously, you as neutrals watching Liverpool in recent weeks, you've been probably quite surprised with the performance level in terms of which it's very unlike Liverpool. It was against Man United, the first defeat in a calendar season anyway, and first defeat in 2022 anyway. And of all the teams that you could pick to get beat by, it's not them. Especially, I reckon you would easily beat them this season, mate. I know, like, they are absolutely atrocious. But at the end of the day, the beat us, happy days for the Manx anyway. But yeah, no, we'll get revenge on them anyway at Anfield. Hopefully. But yeah, it was the right response, mate. I think the one thing Liverpool, as I was speaking to Matt in the week, was the start in which Liverpool, when we've obviously I went to the Palace game, and yes, we started well, but there wasn't really any proper clear-cut opportunities. We dominated quite a lot of possession, but really failed to really much capitalise on the chances, the odd chances that we did have, mate. But yeah, I was happy with the performance level, mate. But I'm just hoping it's not just a flash in the pan in reality. Obviously, we've got to take this result now into the Newcastle game with the same correct manner. And I was saying to Matt before the game, Liverpool, a bit of cockiness with certain players as well. I don't know how you felt about Virgil van Dijk's performance at Old Trafford, but certain players within that team have been a bit too relaxed. And I think that is, like, the Van Dijk, everyone jokes about his aura on a football pitch, and certain players have said that in the past in terms of they're scared to go near Van Dijk, but it looked like Van Dijk was a bit too lackadaisical, really, and it was obviously he got a goal against Hughes, really, but I just want to see a much better, improved performance. But it was a good start, and it was a bit of a mad game. Even my mum come in, she was like, "Did Salah score?" I was like, "No." And even she was like, when mum come in, she knows, obviously she watches the odd game in it and that, but she was like, "Did Salah score?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "How?" I was like, "You did miss an absolute sitter against your lads at the weekend, mate." But yeah, it was a bit of a mad one.
Yeah, it certainly was. And as well as Liverpool played, we really did help them out because I think Liverpool on their day and when they play like that could beat absolutely anybody. I think, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, if you play like that, you would beat anybody. But, we had our part to play. And we do have a comment here as well from Al Garden and a question as well. But before we get to that, I'm going to bring in our fifth person into the show. Evening, Max. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, you?
Yeah, all good. As well as it can be, really, after that. So, quick question from Algard, and the very best wishes to Algard. He's going through a tough week, but hopefully, fingers crossed, you're on the mend now, and we're all with you, mate. But this is the question from Al this evening. Parker's demeaning remarks will upset the dressing room. How do you think, those will, upset the team? Because let's be honest, after the match, and actually Sam's got a bit of that as well that we can play. I wouldn't be happy as an owner, as a player. I wouldn't be happy with that. And shall we play that?
Yeah, I reckon play that. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you want me to start playing, yeah?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I just want to take, just give us your assessment of the game.
Yeah, real tough one. I think first and foremost, pretty shell shock really. Myself, the players, pretty humbling experience what we've just faced there really. So yeah, it was just a difficult day. The levels today were far too great for us really, and they've been at times over certainly the last 3 games, and we've faced some tough opposition. But today, yeah, we were certain some of the goals were pretty sloppy for sure, and we'll put on. I can look at that really, and while you can lose a game against Liverpool, the scoreline, or you never want it to be that really. So at this moment in time, we are where we are, and
Dominic Solanke came back from injury today. How big a player is he going to be for us in the next few weeks?
Yeah, he'd be a big player really, and we've missed him certainly, along with a couple of others. Like Kelly missed today as well. We missed him massively as well. Rothwell, Frederick. So there's a few players what we've missed, and yeah, pleased to have Dom back. A shame he had to come into that environment, but certainly, yeah, pleased to have him back.
Is it too early for a diagnosis on Ben Pearson?
Yeah, he is at the moment. It looked a pretty bad one, and he just said he was a little bit unstable. So we'll have to see where he is in the next couple of days.
We've got another game in 3-4 days' time. Is that exactly what we need right now?
Yeah, it probably is. Time will tell on that, Zoe, really. So, yeah, look, at this present moment in time, yeah, it's a long night ahead, and it's a sleepless one for everyone, for my staff, myself, the players, really. So, it's my job to try and regroup the team and do what we can in terms of being in the right frame psychologically for another tough challenge against Wolves, really. So that's the aim. Of course it is, and no doubt, like always, whenever we face these, certainly when I face adversity, and I've faced many down my journey as a player and certainly as a coach, maybe not as severe as this one. This is probably the most severest, that you bounce back and you try and come back stronger, really. So that's what we'll do, because that's what I've always done before.
And just finally, a word on Lloyd Kelly. You mentioned him earlier. He obviously missed out today. What's the prognosis with him?
We went into the last game against Arsenal with a little bit of an issue, and he felt it in the last game as well. So yeah, he wasn't ready to make this game. Hopefully, he'll be back for Wednesday. I'm hoping that is the case, because we missed him. Missed his power, missed his athleticism and his quality as well. So hopefully he'll be back then.
So going around the room, he seems very downtrodden. There was some comments as well with regards to potential further heavy defeats. With that in mind, even though he did get us out of the Championship, do you think that, if we do have, and don't put up a fight, because let's be honest, we didn't press Liverpool. We didn't do the basics right. Nobody was running off Kiefer Moore. Going round the room, do you think that we should stick with Scott Parker, or do you think the board are probably thinking, well, if he's lost faith in the players that we've got here at the moment, and we've spent 25 million, it's not a small amount of money considering where this football club's been before. Do you think that we should stick with him? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I think, in fairness to Scott, he's in a very, very difficult position. And like I've said plenty of times before, I don't think he's been overly backed in the transfer window. I think you can just see from his, I'm no body language expert, but just from, the way he's coming across, I think he's quite disappointed in what we've done in the transfer window and what we've brought in to keep us in the Premier. Obviously, I've been critical like last season on, plan Bs and stuff, but really I think at the moment Scott's hands pretty tied. But regardless to that, on the other hand as well, as a manager, with whatever squad you got, if you lose 9-0 at the same time, I think you've got to kind of look at yourself a little bit as well. And I think if he's lost certain players in the change room, like some of the rumours have gone about. Obviously, that's not going to do the club or himself any favours. Personally, I mean, I'm still gonna back Scott, because I think he's needed to be backed in the transfer window. Really, he's brought the squad up. So I mean, I still want to back him. We've never been a club that just sack managers willy nilly. But I do think that he's been let down in the transfer market ultimately. I mean, I don't know what else to say really than that, to be honest with you.
What do you reckon, Sam?
Yeah, I agree with Matt. At the moment, I would definitely back him for now. He's got us there at the end of the day. The next 2 games, I think, are very vital. They're winnable games. And I think it's important now that he just takes the team that he's got, go into Wednesday and just try and do the best they can. I believe we do have a team that can win games. Like, obviously, we missed Kelly and Solanke. Saturday, obviously, Solanke coming at half time, I wouldn't have risked him myself. But with having them 2 back in the team, I definitely think it will help us. And hopefully we can bring in a couple of players, but it definitely does look like he's not getting the backing he needs.
Just to add in another little point there, I mean, it's all right, to lose. And like I've said before, you want to, if you're going to lose, let's at least have some fight in us. And Saturday, it was like schoolboys against men. I mean, in fairness to Liverpool, yes, they played very well, but at the same time, we did make it easy for them. Sometimes it looked like our defence was non-existent. And you can't play against sides like Liverpool with the calibre of player they've got and not turn up. I mean, if we'd have lost 4 or 5-0, but we pressed a bit and we gave them a bit of a fight, then hands up, the best team won. But when you lose 9-0 and there's no fight there, that's the most disappointing thing for me. And I think these next 2 games, I know it's still early doors, but I think these next 2 games are absolutely crucial. And I think really we need at least 4 points for these next 2 games. People might think I'm mad for saying that, but I think we need at least 4 points for the next 2 games to really put in it's a bit of a statement that that we can pick up points in this league, but not only that, for our league position as well.
Jack, of course, you are very, very happy with the result, but if you was a Bournemouth fan, what did you make of Scott Parker's comments after the game? Because Liverpool very good, but at the same time, it sounded like he'd admitted defeat, on the Premier League, really.
Yeah, no, and I was going to interrupt Matt, but he's obviously spot on with his points. I was just going to say to all these, like, I would have thought, even watching that game, even Joe, when Liverpool have had defeats in the past, but to that manner of extent, I remember watching the Southampton game as well as Ralph Hasenhuttl a couple of seasons ago. At least I would have thought Parker, even at half time, if you got beat 5-0, fair enough. Just even put men behind the ball. Were you quite surprised by his tactics that carried on throughout the whole entirety of the game? Because obviously Kiefer Moore, obviously, as you said, boys, the ball was bouncing off him and there was no one really picking up that second ball or third ball transition. I thought Scott Parker would have, at least, as we've seen, and I spoke to you, Matt, before the game, I thought Bournemouth would have come with the mindset of just put everyone behind the ball. And Liverpool struggled in times, and already this season, teams that I know you like, teams need an outlet, and certain teams haven't got like a Wilfred Zaha or a Rashford or something in the team, but I was surprised, boys. Like, even at like 5 or 6, just shut up shop, would you say, and just get everyone behind the ball and just try and be a bit more resolute defensively. Obviously, the Trent goal, certain goals within that game, obviously you can compensate to that, but even when you get to like 7, 8, 9, like, the manager has to take a lot of, like, obviously the players most importantly, they've got to perform on the pitch, but even to a certain point of view, the managers tactically was, like, Premier League can be very vicious, and as we've seen a lot of teams come into the league and it can run away from you. And to your point, there, Craig, I listened to the back end of Rodgers' stint at Liverpool Football Club, the interviews he was given, and even Roy Hodgson as well. It's not always been sunshine with Jurgen Klopp. That even the dark days, like especially my age, it wasn't there. But like, especially the back end of Rodgers, Parker was very similar in terms of the way in which, as you said, Craig, the defeat already. And what are we 4 games into the season? If you're a player or a fan, like if I was a Bournemouth fan, I'd be like, listening to that and be like, come on, fella, you're meant to be the spearhead of the football club, regardless of what's going on behind the scenes. Obviously, not getting the right players in, but you've got to be a beacon in terms of obviously positivity. I know certain moments and certain seasons, as you go progress through the season, can't always be positive, but it's one thing translating it to the media, who will always ask these questions, but in-house you can have those arguments when you get off the TV cameras, mate, for me.
And what did you make of it, Max?
Well, because I couldn't watch the actual game on telly, I got a stream up to watch it. I watched literally, I was on the phone with Matt earlier, like 3/4 of the game, because I knew it'd end up a cricket score. But I mean, coming into a game against Liverpool, I was expecting, looking at the team, like, yeah, if we play really well, we can get some points at Anfield. I thought City was a different kettle of fish. Well, that's Liverpool now, because I mean, City struggled at home to Palace but still won. But with us, I thought, with what Matt and Sam said at the start, with staying with the manager, although it was a 9-0 defeat, I reckon. Well, the thing is I would stick with him, although it's early doors. But losing 9-0 is like, it's a bit unacceptable, really, because when it was like 6-0, I was thinking like this could be 10-0, like 12, 13-0, and
easily could have been.
Literally, yes, while I was watching, I was thinking, never have I've ever seen us lose this bad in my life from being a Bournemouth fan. And literally, in all credit to Liverpool, fair enough, they put on a show. But there was like 2-3 goals in there. I was watching. One of their players went to put a ball in. It deflected off. I don't know which defender it was. One of our defenders. And it literally deflected straight to. I've forgotten who the striker was putting it back in the net.
Yeah, Firmino. He never scores as well for us at home.
Yeah,
first goal in 2 years. 2 years first time.
Yeah, I was watching it. Who put the ball in the box again? I don't know who I forgot who put the ball in the box. But a Liverpool player come running down the wing, put the ball in the box, and then deflected. It was a proper clean deflection as well off of one of our defenders, and it was a tap in for Firmino. And also, I was watching, there was a bit of a scrappy goal as well in there, where I thought it was FIFA 22 for a second, because it was literally a tap. It was like a rebound, wasn't there? There's like one of their players had a shot. It was a rebound, and it was the tapping for another one of their players. But yeah, I mean, I saw the Trent goal was really good. I'll give him that. I mean, there was back pass to Harvey Elliott, and he slotted one straight in the back of the net. And I mean, I was like, we were out of options, really. We made some subs, but didn't really do anything. But yeah, in all fairness, well done to Liverpool, outplayed us. When we come into the game against Wolves, what I think is the way we didn't press as much against Liverpool, and we won the ball back a couple of times, but then we got shredded in the middle of the park. So, but when we come against Wolves, hopefully, as you're saying, Solanke and Fredericks are back from injury, and they can hopefully be on the bench, because obviously you're not going to really want to start a player that's on a light injury, back on. So just have them on the bench, they're there for an option, or a sub if need be. But if Wolves press their presses right, then we're gonna no problem. We're gonna have to go long. Although we're not Burnley, we don't do long balls. If Wolves presses right, we're gonna have to go long. Personally, in my point of view, because if we just pass along around the back, we're gonna get caught out, and that's what we did against Liverpool. That's why it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just like that. So we're going to have a different game plan against Wolves. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
And we have got another guest from Liverpool. And of course, he did our opposition preview show, and I was on his show from the Dugout Football Channel. Hello, Douglas. You all right, mate?
Yeah, good, Craig. I honestly feel sorry for you guys having to make that journey all the way out to Anfield for to obviously to lose like heavily like that. I mean, I never saw that coming. As you and I said, Craig, we thought it'd be very, very tight. But thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Not a problem at all, mate. So, of course, 9-0. You've got to be absolutely delighted with that. But how much do you reckon Bournemouth helped Liverpool out? Because we were just saying, play like that, Liverpool would have beaten Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, anybody. But we did play our part in making it a lot easier for you.
I think conceding that early goal was very, very key. I mean, it's conceding early. Like I think for opposition teams at Anfield, you want to keep it tight. You want to keep it compact for like the first sort of 20, 25 minutes. And then like Crystal Palace did, for example, they managed to keep it tight and compact for about 20, 25 minutes. And then, they caught us on the counter-attack. Whereas you guys, we scored in like 3 minutes. And yes, I know. Obviously, with like the big VAR delay with that first goal, whether it was offside or not, but and then the second goes in like 6 minutes, and it's already an uphill struggle after that, and it's always going to be a difficult place to go to at Anfield as well. And then obviously the third goes in, and you just wonder by then how much it's going to be. I mean, I think it was at 5-0 at half time. Like you just want to shut up shop, and then all of a sudden it just got like worse. Obviously Mepham scoring the OG to make it obviously 6. It was one of those games where one of those just happens. You just everything that looks like that is going to go in, it goes in. Every time we looked like attacking, we looked like we were going to score. I think that's the easiest game Alisson Becker's probably had in a long time, as well. And I just never saw that coming. Never saw that coming. I had a feeling we would win. Don't get me wrong. I had a feeling we would win, and obviously, I know Jack can be a bit over the top with predictions. Let me just say that.
He hasn't even said hello to me here, Joe, and he's going straight at me. no, hello, Doug. No.
Hello, Jack. You all right?
Oh, there we go. 5 minutes late. There we go.
But never in my wildest imagination did I expect 9-0. And as I said to you, Craig, I would have I would have took a 1-0 off like the ball going off someone's bottom or something. But it was just so we were just so clinical on Saturday. It was quite frightening. But I think in the end, I know obviously 9-0 is a bit of a consolation, but I think you'd be glad that we didn't quite get the double figures, because I think that would have been really humiliating.
To be honest, it was close because there was that VAR decision right at the end, wasn't there? And it could have ended up in a penalty. What did you guys make of that?
I'll be honest, I wasn't actually watching the game at the time, but I have actually seen it on Match of the Day, and I think it is a penalty. But I think to be honest, I think Stuart Atwell was kind of feeling a little bit sorry for you guys, and I think he just wanted to blow the whistle to get rid of the pain of losing 9-0 as well.
What did you make of it, Jack? Because I personally thought it was a penalty. I did think it was a penalty. I'm going to be honest, but I did say to the guys when we was walking out of Anfield that I do feel that the referee maybe just gave us the benefit of the doubt because of the scoreline.
Yeah, 100%, Mason. It's the referees, as we've all, and you've these referees, boys, you got to be warned. I don't know what it was like in the Championship, but these are even probably worse than the Championship law in terms of like you will get decisions against and for you, and you're like, what is this? But yeah, there was a penalty for me, mate. But as Doug said, that you get the news, but I'd be more concerned. Obviously, I want to ask you boys as well. Just to obviously Scott Parker thoughts as well in terms of the money from an outside point of view. In terms of when I look at it, it's difficult. You know, I'm not too sure on the budget in which obviously you do get as a football club, really. But when you look at Forest, I know they heavily backed. But it's Scott Parker, yes, with his comments, but could you see a use being linked with anyone? I feel Scott Parker's hands have been massively tied with obviously the players, in which I think if you can get like an extra 20, 30 odd million, I know it's a lot of money, especially the not a lot of teams, especially when you got oil state backed countries in the Premier League as well. We all know the teams. But for me, I think Scott Parker just needs a bit more help in terms of the transfer window for me, miss.
Yeah, I think that's a spot on comment.
Yeah.
It's really what he needs. He needs a couple of. I mean, he said in most press conferences and most interviews after games, you know, we need help. And if a manager's saying that, then it's never a good sign. And yeah, you know, you're right. He has got to be positive, but at the same time, he's in a very difficult position to be positive with what we can see from outside looking in, that he's getting no backing in the transfer market. It is almost like we were happy to come up just to go back down again. Which for supporters that put their hands in their money, their hands in their pocket every week to spend their money, it's not it's not a great thing really. I mean, a lot of fans gone up to Anfield and we've had to sit through that. It's really not good. But I mean, you're absolutely spot on. I mean, he needs at least probably another 30 million to probably keep us up.
Did you spend that Nathan Aki money all those years ago, or who did that go on, or did it just go on the club? In terms of what you got,
money that was. I mean, to be fair, that probably would have bridged the gap between staying up and going down, probably.
I think a lot of it was swallowed up by COVID as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, and obviously COVID. With the COVID, obviously, we lost. Lots of clubs got hit by that, so I'd imagine it's bridged the gap somewhere. But we did spend money while we were in the Championship as well. So, but obviously, to spend money in the Championship is a lot different to spending money in the Premier.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think, going back to Jack's point, what the club have actually done this time round is, because Eddie was back to a certain extent, wasn't he? He's backed a lot more than Scott Parker has been. When you compare the sort of figures being bounded around now to 2015, it was a very, very different market. But he did still get, a fair amount of backing more than what Scott has. I think what the club have done, though, is they started to invest in the infrastructure. So the training ground looks like that is going to be completed this time round. Whereas in the Premier League, and that was what Eddie wanted, wasn't it, really? It was his legacy, that training ground. I think he wanted the training ground and the stadium. Unfortunately, we was relegated after COVID. That all knocked it back. They've started building that again, but at detriment to the playing side. And it's that balancing act, really. I think it's that balancing act. And at the moment, I believe, 30 million would probably be just to make us competitive. Because there's areas in that team, the defence, which aren't good enough. Quick question for everybody as well. One thing I've been saying is our midfield is a Premier League midfield. And I've been saying that since we were promoted. You've got Jefferson Lerma. Okay, Jefferson Lerma's been playing in the back. But you've got Lewis Cook. You've got Phil Billing. Tavernier looks like he's going to be able to make the step up. But at times, he's blown hot and cold. Ryan Christie, very, very good player. Ben Pearson gets himself around. Is he Premier League level? You know, he's different. He's different to what Premier League clubs. But am I over-egging it? Am I saying, you know, me turning around and saying we've got Premier League midfield? Have we or not?
I reckon, I believe we definitely do have Premier League players. Definitely in midfield, Lewis Cook, like you said, Jefferson Lerma. He definitely does need to come away from being a centre back. We need him back in the midfield. And like you said, with Ben Pearson, he definitely gives us something different. I totally agree. I do believe we definitely have midfield. It's just the other areas I think we may need to have a bit of extra depth.
It definitely needs. I think we definitely need another attacking player, another forward, and I would probably say another centre back as well. I mean, cross midfield we're covered. With signing Fredericks, full back wise, we got Smithy who can play on the left. Stacey's played on the left before, so there's cover there for Zuma, Zamora. And then, when you look up top, just another different kind of striker to bring in. Someone that's different to Kiefer Moore, different to Solanke would improve the attacking line. But midfield-wise, I think, like I've said all along, I know we lost a lot of the battle in the midfield on Saturday, and our midfield haven't performed to the capabilities that they can perform to. But I think, with a good run of form and games, I think the midfield, and especially with the likes of, we still got Joe Rothwell to bed in. I would say definitely at the back and up top is probably where we need the improvement.
Well, here's a man that knows all about transfers, and welcome onto the show from Sky Sports, Mark McAdam. How you doing, Mark?
How you doing, guys? Good to see you. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. In typical transfer window fashion, I've spent the last 15 hours on the phone today, and I got a couple of phone calls at 8 o'clock, so I couldn't jump on as early as I'd like.
No problem at all, Mark. Thank you so much for joining us, and it's a pleasure to be speaking to you. So we was just talking about what Scott Parker needs to do in the transfer window. We've got a couple of days left. The transfer window slams shut. I believe it's on Thursday, if I'm correct in thinking. In your mind, what does he need to do, and what have you heard so far?
It's a multi-million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think, first of all, I think if you'd said to anyone at the start of the season, where would you be after 4 games? The answer would probably have been bottom of the table on 0 points. So I think the fact that we've got 3 points on the board, and we've shown in patches that we can be resolute defensively. I know that sounds ironic and weird coming off the back of being beaten by Liverpool 9-0. But I think we've shown in patches that we can be strong at the back. We've got good organisation, and there's a bit of togetherness about the team. I think that's going to be key. I think in terms of the window, I think the club has been working really hard over the course of this summer to try and bring the right type of players to the table for Scott to sign. Those that can fit into the philosophy, those that can be quality in the Premier League. You have to remember as well, a lot of Bournemouth's success has been done in the past on young, raw, talented players that Eddie Howe has coached and made better. Now, Eddie Howe is probably one of the best coaches in the game and will improve everyone he comes into touch with, whether that's analysts, whether that's sports science staff, whether that's players, whether that's coaches. His philosophy was to improve everyone and make everyone better. Scott Parker isn't Eddie Howe and has a very different philosophy and mindset, and the training ground will be a different place to what it was under Eddie. So I think the remit with regards to recruiting players has to be slightly different. Instead of buying products that you can develop and make better, you need to buy players that are essentially ready to go into the first team now. And that becomes a real challenge because you're shopping in a very different window. Off the back of the pandemic, things have been tough for the football club. I think if you speak to any single football fan at Stoke or Swansea or Huddersfield, and you say to them, what's the one thing that you wish you'd had? It would have been financial stability and the ability to get back into the Premier League. And Maxim's given us that because he's backed the team when we've come down. They've sold players. They've reinvested at the right time. They spent a huge amount of money last season in the Championship to get back up to the Premier League. And this summer, whilst we haven't spent huge amounts of cash, if that means that we're more sustainable and financially stable moving forward for the years to come, then I don't mind that. I don't want to see us go back down having spent 170 million like Nottingham Forest and then spend the next 10 years trying to pay for it. If we go down, but we've been sensible with our money, I think that's far more important for me as a fan, because we've all been there with buckets outside the Winter Garden. We've all been outside Dean Court trying to raise money. I worked at the football club where before I left the first time, I had 12 months where I got my wages in full 3 times. I had 9 months where I didn't get my wages on time. They came 2 weeks late or a week late. That kind of era for the football club is a thing of the past. And I think just being sustainable is the most important thing. And if that means we don't spend money this window, then so be it. I still think we can attract young players. I still think we can build a successful side. We just have to do it in a different way. Now to go on to the future, I know the club are working really hard to try and sign players. I think the loan market will be something they'd look to exploit if they possibly could. There's some really talented young players out there available from the likes of Manchester United and Arsenal and Chelsea and other big Premier League sides. I think that could be an avenue that we look to explore. Obviously, injuries have played a bit of a factor as well and made things a little bit more difficult. We're missing a couple of key players. And I think that you look at a lot of clubs at the minute, they're struggling to get the players in that they'd like. There's still a lot of clubs that haven't done a lot of business. And I think right now we've done okay. I think we've done really well. I think we've got maybe another 2 or 3 that could make this a successful summer. But one thing I do know, the club are desperately trying to get the right players in. So, it's going to be an interesting last 2-3 days, whatever we've got now.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think the one question I would throw back to that is Scott Parker going to be happy, because he's expressed his disappointment that we're not doing as much business as he would like in the transfer window. There has been murmurs there. Do you think he's going to be happy where we are bringing in loan players, good quality loan players, but do you think he's going to be happy that we're not spending the money to actually push ourselves forwards?
I think it's always easy for football fans to spend someone else's money. That's the thing. It's easy for us to sit back here and say, right, we should be getting this and we should be doing this and we should be spending that. I think you have to remember as well is every single player is a big financial commitment. Just say, for example, you spend 10 million pound on a player and he's on 50 grand a week and he costs you on a 5-year deal. That's a commitment of 22.5 million pounds, give or take. Plus everything else that goes with it, national insurance and tax and insurance and so you're not just spending 10 million pound on a player. You're committing 22 million pounds for the next 5 years, and so on and so. And if you do that for 10 players, that's 220 million for the next 5 years. Now, when you start looking at it like that, and that's how you have to look at it, because whether the club stays in the Premier League or goes down, you've still got that commitment to that player. So you have to be really conscious about these things. It's like when you talk about Erling Haaland or Chelsea for an example. Chelsea losing Timo Werner and Romelu Lukaku has saved Chelsea about £34 million a year in wages. Over the next 3 years of their contract, just say they've got 3 years to run on their contract, that's saving the football club over 100 million by just getting 2 players out the door. That was a huge commitment that Roman made that Todd Burley wasn't prepared to make. So that's the point number one in terms of when you're signing players, you have to be really conscious that the package is the right package and the wages are the right wages. And you have to also, and you've seen West Ham being another example this summer, they've been in for a lot of players, but a lot of players have turned them down. A lot of players have said, no, I'm not interested in working with David Moyes. I'm not interested in going to East London. Jesse Lingard chose Nottingham Forest over West Ham because he was going to get more money at Nottingham Forest. There's a lot of players that Bournemouth have tried to get this summer that just haven't wanted to go into a team that's just been promoted. So that's another thing that's at play. To answer your question, is Scott Parker going to be happy with taking loans? I think Scott Parker is a sensible guy. He'll understand that, the money isn't necessarily there to go and invest in, in players spending 15, 20 million quid and give them loads of money every week. It is going to have to be a little bit more considered, a little bit more measured. And if that means bringing players in on loan, then so be it. Look at Conor Gallagher for Crystal Palace last season. What a brilliant loan he was for them. There is good quality players out there. There is, value to be had if you can get the right players that can come into the football club and sort of, operate that way. And the one thing I'll always go back to as well, Maxim has always backed the manager. 9 times out of 10, Maxim's always backed the manager. He's always made money available. He's always, Bournemouth have always been late operators in the window. They've always signed players, on deadline day or the day before. They've always tried to support the manager historically as much as they physically possibly can. And I don't see that being any different. Sometimes you get a bit lucky. Sometimes something falls into your lap, on the last day, and you think, wow, that's a great deal. And then when the big clubs start looking at their 25-man squad and they go, well, we haven't got a place for him, therefore let's let him go out on loan. And who needs an attacking midfielder, or who needs a centre half, or who needs a left back right now? And everyone goes back and says, no, we're sorted. And Bournemouth's the one club that says, well, yeah, we need a left back. And then they might get a deal last minute that just ticks all those boxes, and you think, well, that's a good deal. So I think there's still a long way to go. And I think there's lots of things that affect the situation. I think Scott will just have to accept that the club will do the very best they can and bring in the best quality players they can. There's no one at this football club that wants them to go down. There's no one at this football club that wants us to be unsuccessful. Neil and Richard and the rest of the board, Maxim, they care so passionately about this. And, why would you invest all that money in January to come straight back down again? And I think that's the thing. It's going to be a bit of a bumpy 48 hours. And you can only really judge what happens on Friday morning when we all wake up. Hopefully we'll have another 3 points by then, and that'll make a big difference to everyone's mindset, mentality as well. We're sat here off the back of 3 defeats and one of them being 9-0. So I think everyone's a bit negative. And this will sound really corny and cheesy, but go back to what's brought us our success over the last 14 years. Together, anything is possible. And right now, I feel like this club needs everyone to be together as much as possible.
Yeah, completely agree. And, fingers crossed, things, we can bottle this up and we can use this in the right way moving forwards. By all means, anybody in the comments, please do ask us any questions. Please, if you've got any questions for Mark as well, do fire them over. I think Max's internet has just dropped out, but I believe he's just coming on back in. Here he is. So any other points on that, guys?
Pay the lecky bill, Max.
In the dark.
Yeah, sorry, I got disconnected.
Oh, fair enough.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. Of course, Nat Phillips, we had on loan last season, and he was one player, of course, a Liverpool player, who I thought was going to come back. And I thought we was going to sign him permanently. Considering the start Senesi has had, and let's be honest, he's been thrown into the deep end, hasn't he? With 3 really difficult games. But are we missing Nat Phillips, considering the link-up he had with Kelly at the end of last season?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting point. We know that the club approached Liverpool with a view to another loan for this season.
Yeah.
Liverpool's stance was, let's wait and see. Like a lot of these big clubs, it suits them to have Nat Phillips right up to the end of the window. Because if they get an injury to Virgil van Dijk, you saw Nat Phillips play starting the Premier League last week. If they get any issues, same with Chelsea and Conor Gallagher and Ethan Ampadu and and all these other players, it suits the big clubs to keep them right to the end of the window, because the last thing they want to do is get an injury to a player and then their fans turn around and say, well, why did you let him go to Bournemouth on loan? So the sort of stance with Liverpool was, let's wait and see. We're happy for Nat Phillips to come back on loan. Nat's happy to come back on loan because he loves the club and he had a really great time last year and he enjoyed it and he was settled. However, we need to protect ourselves at the moment because we need to be sure that we've got enough in the building for us before we start helping out other clubs. So I think that's a potential, to happen between now and the end of the window. But you can understand the stance from Liverpool. Don't let someone go that could potentially be an important squad player for you. But yeah, that's another one you can sort of put in the back of your notebook and think, well, that could possibly happen. There's that link up that exists already, and he could be a player that could come into the setup and make a bit of a difference. But he's playing games for Liverpool, so it's a tough one.
And Douglas, Jack, what have you made of Nat Phillips so far?
Go ahead, Doug.
It's a really difficult one with Nat, because he came in at the end of the start of 2021, and that season we had all those injuries, 22 different centre back partnerships, which is unheard of, Jack, isn't it? It's absolutely unheard of. But Nat Phillips is an absolute credit to himself. Played really well with Reece Williams, and both of them deserve a lot of credit for what actually happened. We managed to still get third, and Nat Phillips played his part. He played his part. Reece Williams played his part as well. So it's disappointing that, I think, had those injuries not had happened, I think Nat Phillips would have probably been away from the club. I think as well, what actually happened, and obviously COVID struck with that as well, I think Nat Phillips could easily have been sold, because I think at that point he was probably the club's most valuable asset at the time. When you actually look at it, I think he was probably, I think there was people quoting him for about like a 15-20 million. Now that would have been fantastic to get as a football club, but unfortunately, I think as well we had more defensive injuries that happened as well. So I think had those not happened, I think he would have easily been away from the club.
I think as well that the Nico Williams thing going to Nottingham Forest, that was another defensive player that they sold. They made 16, 17 million quid on him. So again, you don't want to start losing too many players. They've already generated some income, which is what FSG want. FSG want Jurgen Klopp to win the league and make money on player sales. So they've kind of lost one player, made some money. So it made things a little bit more relaxed with regards to Nat.
Yeah. It's Ibu. I think he was out for. I was at that game in Strasbourg, at home, and it was you knew as soon as he went down, done like a little vlogs, and you knew instantly when he went down. I think, as we said, Gomez and Jurgen Klopp likes a lot of versatile players that play in a lot of positions. His favourite, James Milner, being that. But yeah, I think the option of having Joe Gomez playing right back, I think we will see him play a couple of times once Konate's back. But as obviously Mark and you've already alluded to, I think potentially could go to Bournemouth, but if Liverpool didn't suffer the injuries in which we did suffer, and was it 2 years ago, as Doug's alluded to, Liverpool were very injury crippled, and Christ, the transfer news and everything, especially Liverpool midfielders, it's the YouTube algorithm at the minute. If you put it into Google, you get. But as you know, from an outside point of view, Liverpool midfielders is the word on the street.
I never want to go back. I never want to go back to having Jordan Henderson or Fabinho at the back ever again.
But yeah, I think potentially long term. But I've seen quite a lot of different Bournemouth opinions in terms of, did you rate him really when he was at use like properly? Obviously, because I think I've watched a couple of Bournemouth channels as well, try and compare him. Obviously, the benchmark is Nathan Ake at Bournemouth. Yeah. Obviously, before his move to Manchester City. But he lacks a lot of pace, and we've seen that against Crystal Palace last week in terms of Zaha. God bless him. He's a quality centre half when he has to deal with things in the air and in front of him. But as I said, Cruyff turned a couple of the Milan players last season at the San Siro, one of his highlights. But yeah, did you really rate him? Like,
go on, let's throw that round the room then.
Yeah.
I'll go first and say what I think.
Sorry, Nat, if you're watching, you're not like.
I thought he was solid after that Bournemouth game. To be honest, nobody had a real good game against Bournemouth. And he built up a really good partnership with Lloyd Kelly. In that Nottingham Forest game, he was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Nothing was getting past him. So would I like him back? Most definitely. Is he? Yeah, I think he's capable, of course, playing regularly in the Premier League. Probably not for Liverpool. But I think, with ourselves, I think he would be an asset, and especially with the right person beside him in Lloyd Kelly, I think, he would be an asset to our football club. What do you reckon, guys? Go on, go around the room.
I think he suits your system, no free back. Same with Chelsea, certain centre halves suit a system, and obviously Chelsea a four back. Those things, usual, don't go.
Who wants to go next? Do you rate Nat Phillips, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, he did a job for us in the Championship last year, didn't he? Coming at a very January, wasn't it? Coming.
Yes, January.
And, obviously, he managed to keep Cahill out the side, didn't he? So, for me, I mean, you can't compare him. And I know some people have tried comparing him to Nathan Ake, and you can't compare him to Ake. Two totally different players.
Miles better than he, Nathan Ake.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, Ake's got a lot more about his game, isn't he? He can do a lot more, can play in different positions as well. But yeah, I mean, after what I saw on Saturday, and it looks like Marcus Sensei is going to take a little bit more time to settle in, which is only right. I mean, if we did a loan deal on transfer deadline day, I wouldn't be overly disappointed.
What do you reckon, Sam?
Yeah, I agree with both of you. At the end of the day, with the second half of the season, Kelly and Phillips' partnership, I definitely reckon we missed Kelly's leadership Saturday, and if we brought in Phillips on loan before the deadline, I wouldn't say no to that, definitely.
Max? Or are you having to demute yourself?
Hold on, I'll do it. There you go.
There we are, Max. Matt's on the ball.
No, I couldn't find the mute. Yeah, carry on. What was your question, Chris? Craig, I meant.
So do you rate Nat Phillips, and do you think, he's capable of stepping back into this side?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he would be a good signing to have him, because we had him on loan from Liverpool last season. We played for us against Forest in the one of the last few games left of the Championship. I thought he was great then, so he was great all season for us. It'd be great to have him at the back with Sensei, because he's still fitting into the team, because he's only just been at us for the last month, I'd say, because I think he's only played his first few Premier League games so far. I think Phillips would fit in really well if we signed him into the team. It would be another defender, wouldn't it? Him, Sensei, Fredericks at the back, Smith on the left as well, and yeah. And Lerner, obviously, we've got at the back as well as midfield.
And finally, Mark, of course, I think I can imagine that you'd be delighted with Nat Phillips coming back to the club.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll leave the opinions to you guys. Unfortunately, I get to watch as much of Bournemouth as you guys, because I do Soccer Saturday, so I'm all over the country, so I don't get to watch as many Bournemouth games as I'd like. But yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said. I think the one thing you get from Nat Phillips is heart and passion and desire and commitment, and that's what you get from every Liverpool player, because that's number one of things you have to do whilst you play for that club. And Bournemouth's very similar. I think if you get someone that gives 110%, that's all you can ever ask for.
Yeah, most definitely. Most
Can
definitely.
I ask a question?
Go for it.
How many players do you expect to be in on deadline day at Bournemouth?
Big question.
Yeah, big question.
Do you know what? I'd probably, if someone said to me now they'd sign 2 more, I would probably say that would be about right. You know, and either side of that, you know, I don't think we'll see 5 like we did in January.
No.
I think we'll be a couple more, you know, 3 might be a bit like, well, that sounds good. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 1. So I don't think we'll see many. But again, it just depends on those players that get presented last minute, and you know, we know that the club can react quickly and they'll get deals done. And when we know that Scott would like to, I think the other thing that's important as well is we've got, I think, a 26-man squad at the moment, and you can only register.
Okay.
You can only register 25 players to play in the Premier League. I know slightly different rules for those players in the 23s. So I do think there's a bit of a balancing act as well, that any potentially that we bring in would mean that someone else wouldn't have a space. So you'd have to make sure that they had an opportunity to move on, because there'd be nothing worse than paying someone 20 grand a week and have them sat in the stand until January the 1st because they can't even play even if we needed them. So I still think there's a little bit of a balancing act to do. So that's going to play a part between now and Thursday night.
One quick thing, actually, Shrieky Dembele, who I really do rate, and I think he's a very, very good player. Of course, there is this possible move to Besiktas that is going to happen. After Saturday, hand on heart, I don't want that to happen. I want him to still be here at the club. But do you think that could potentially be the reason why he's going out, to make room for somebody else, and Dembele will come in and have a part to play at this club eventually?
Yeah, so that deal, do you know what? One of my many things I wanted to do today was find out what the latest was on that deal. But as you can imagine, there's so much else going on. I don't think I know. I watched Dembele play for Peterborough a number of times, and I was hugely excited by him. Did I think he had Premier League quality? Probably not. Did he have the ability to play in the Championship? Definitely. Was there potential there that, if worked on by the right set of coaching staff and manager, could he improve and develop and maybe be an asset in the Premier League? Possibly. I just don't think he's had enough game time. I don't think he's started enough matches. I don't think he's been given a fair opportunity, in all honesty, to show us what he's capable of. I certainly saw a game changer at Peterborough, someone that could influence the match in more ways than one, with pace and energy and technical ability, and he could carry the ball up the pitch. I would be sorry to see him leave the club, but again, it's that balancing act. And if someone there is offering him an opportunity to play, it's the right opportunity for him and his family, and his game time is going to be limited at Bournemouth, then it makes sense. I don't know what the latest situation is with regards to that move to Besiktas, but I know the back end of last week it was fairly advanced, but I don't have an update on that one, I'm afraid.
I was of the belief it was a loan move, but am I still correct in thinking that?
Yeah, I think it was a loan. I think there was possibly an option in there as well, as opposed to an obligation. But again, these things can change so quickly. It's one line in a contract. You know, often these deals are so complicated. You know, and you've seen it today. There's a situation with Manchester United and Dubravka. You know, they want a loan with an option. Newcastle want a loan with an obligation. The option only kicks in when he's played 5 games, or when he's played 10 games, or when he's done this, or when Man United are in the top 4. These things can be very, very complicated.
Of course, bringing it back to this game that we've just had against Liverpool, of course, 9-0 defeat, never nice, but at the same time, let's try and look at the positives and what we can do about. So, personally, for me, it was that we didn't press Liverpool at all. We didn't get close to them. There was nobody running off Kiefer Moore. And surely there's lessons to be learned, isn't there, with regards to that? And do you expect, those things that were so glaringly obvious against Liverpool to be put right in time for the Wolves game?
I think you'll see a very different Bournemouth performance, a different Bournemouth side. I also have to think we have to remember 9-0's not great, regardless of who you are. This is a Liverpool side that last season were 2 games away from the quadruple, which has never been done before. If they'd won their last Premier League game and Man City had lost, then they would have won the Premier League. They'd beaten Real Madrid. They would have won the Champions League. They would have done something that no side has ever done before in this country. So that gives you an indication as to their level. This time last season we were playing Peterborough in the Championship. So I think that's important to remember and put things into a little bit of perspective as well. It wasn't at Anfield, one of the greatest historical stadiums in this country that's played host to some of the most magical games in Premier League history. So, the factors there were tough. It was always going to be a challenge, regardless of anything. So I don't think we need to get too carried away with the result. Again, the other thing is you go to Liverpool and you start with the high press. You start putting those players under pressure, and then they start popping it around you. You'll get popped, like we did. You sit off, like you said, Craig, and then you get popped again. So what do you do is that happy medium of trying to press the ball and work hard and be together and make sure you're behind the ball, or do you try and win the game, or do you try and score goals? That's one of those things. I'm sure if you said to Scott now, what would you have done differently? Say, well, actually, I'd have done this differently. I'd have set this up differently. I'd have used these players in a different way. Tactically, I would have changed things because clearly he didn't get it right. Absolutely didn't get it right. So I think the most important thing is Wednesday night we see a team that's together, a team that's working for each other, a team that's playing for the stadium, for the vitality. The fans need to be really up for it. Forget Saturday, forget the result against Liverpool. This is an opportunity to get 3 points. We lost one game. We didn't lose 38 matches. We lost one game.
Yeah.
We lost 3 points. That's the only thing we lost against Liverpool. And I think, if we can be organised, if we can play to our strengths, and we can just make sure the crowd's positive and they're right behind the team, and let's show that kind of that togetherness, then there's no reason why we can't give Wolves a really good game. They're quality and they'll be organised and they'll be difficult to break down. But if we do all the things that we've shown in the Championship last season and against Aston Villa and at stages against Manchester City, then there's no reason why we can't get a positive result.
Yep, definitely. And AFCB Fan TV has already said Bournemouth 2, Wolves 1. I would take that. I would take that right now.
Funnily enough, Craig, I've actually got you winning 2-0 on Wednesday. There
we go. Well, hopefully, fingers crossed. One of you are right. It's going to be a tough game. Every game in the Premier League is tough, but at the same time, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see that reaction, like Liverpool did against after the Man United game. And let's be honest, they come out and thrashed us 9-0. So
it's the thing, though, Craig, and obviously with our fan base, the beginning of the season, even me, and when I've done my post matches and spoke to Doug, us football fans are very fickle, especially when it comes to transfers and games. And if we draw, and obviously Aston Villa win this weekend, I think they go above Liverpool. So, and then the Aston Villa fans are completely on cloud 9 then. So, but yeah, as he's already alluded to, boys, he's played 3 of the biggest teams in English football. Obviously, yours, City and Arsenal. If I was speaking to Matt earlier in the week, you technically, it's not good from a perspective, but you more or less 3 hits. If you get any points from those teams, then it's absolutely fantastic, mate. But as I said, it could have been anyone yesterday in terms of the match. Chelsea, Arsenal, we would, as you said, boys, the form Liverpool we're in, but keep it heads up, boys. And as I said, if you apply yourselves in the right attitude, which I know you will, and you should be sound, but don't be too down, because you have played 3 of the biggest teams in England, as you said, and pretty sure if you can get 1 or 2 players in, but if you stick together, as you've already alluded to, you'd be sound, boys. Hopefully,
as long as you beat the Ev as well.
Oh yeah, well, hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll be below the line. We'll be above it. So
I'm not saying nothing. We've got them on the weekend, and after what I said before the United game, yeah, so just bite me on the back there.
They're in trouble though, aren't they, Everton?
Yes, they are.
Yes,
massively.
As much as it's enjoyable, I've got a lot of family members. Well, they speak a big game, but yeah, just I'll leave it at that. Like it is funny. There's a lot of respectful Blues out there as well, and obviously with the city coming together, and quite rightly, this weekend with the tragedy in terms of the young girl as well, Olivia, forced to go to her family and everything and everyone. But yeah, it's very feisty in terms of when it is Liverpool and everything in terms of the football. But yeah, it'll be a big game, I swear. We've dropped 3 points against Man United already this season. We can't be doing that against the Ev.
I've got to say, that was one of the most touching moments in a football ground I've ever seen on Saturday. That 9th minute. And, it shows how united Liverpool is as a city, So, yeah, as such a touching moment. I struggled to find words for it, but yeah, it was lovely. And hopefully the family will get a lot of support out of that as well. Let's close it off with some predictions of where we go from here then. So, of course, we've got Wolves next. This is where I said at the start of the season, our season would begin. We didn't expect to have conceded 16 goals and scored 2, but that's where we are at the moment. But what do you guys think is going to happen from here on? Do you think we're going to beat Wolves and then we can forget about this result? Who wants to go first?
I'll go 2-0. I'll go 2-0 Bournemouth. I've watched a couple of watch-alongs, and Wolves, the quality they have got in the midfield, but they're just lacking that. Obviously, I think they need to bring in another striker. Them and Brighton, 2 of the teams there. But yeah, I'm going to go Bournemouth 2-0 2-0 win. Especially you beat Steven Gerrard on the opening day, so who's to say that you can't get 3 points of the weekend, mate? But I go 2-0 Bournemouth. Hopefully for your lads.
What do you reckon, Max? Oh, he's put himself on mute again. There we are. You're back in the room, Max. You're back in the room.
Yeah. My prediction. Well, going into this game, we're gonna have to have a completely different game plan because what we had against Liverpool was. Parker did get it wrong. Let's just say, yeah, right. It's 3 points against Liverpool. We lost. Fair enough. One of the best teams in Europe. Going into a game against Wolves, if we have a completely different game plan and maybe make some changes in the starting 11, I can't see us winning. I can't see why not. We won't win 2-1. But yeah, if we play really well, I reckon we will get a 2-1 win. But if we get unlucky, I reckon it'll be like 1-1 draw, probably 1-1.
And of course, Douglas, you said 2-0.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your fixtures, and actually 4 out of your next 6 are at home. So big chances to get a lot of points on the board, and if you can, get your home wins for sure. And you've got Wolves, you've got Forest away on Saturday. But after that, you've also got Brighton at home. That'll be a tricky game. But you've beaten Brighton at home before as well. You're away to Newcastle. That's not going to be easy. But then you've obviously got like back-to-back home games against Brentford and Leicester City, and those are the kind of games that you'd be looking to get points from. So I think your next few games, especially at home, I think there's points there to be won. But yeah, about to tomorrow's game or Wednesday's game. I think I watched Wolves against Bournemouth. I watched Wolves against Newcastle, and like Jack said, they're lacking something up front, and I think they're getting that Sasa Kalidzic from Stuttgart. He is 6'6". He won't be signed in time, I don't think, for this game. But yeah, for me, I think Southampton responded after 2 9-0s. I expect you to respond after a 9-0 defeat. So, yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 Bournemouth. Kiefer Moore and Jefferson Lerma over the goals for me.
Let's hope. Matt, Sam, what are you going with?
I think the most important thing for Wednesday night is that Dean Court gets rocking like it can do on a weeknight game, because we usually have some good games under the lights. So I think that's the most important thing, that we as a crowd get behind the boys and become that 12th man. It's going to be a difficult one. Hopefully that the lads can just put that Saturday behind them and get out there and get us a win. From what I've seen of Wolves so far this season, they seem to lack a bit in the attack. So hopefully, and I'm going to go with a 2-0 win.
And Sam?
Yeah, I think it's important to start attacking from the offset, but I think I'm going to go with a 3-0 win to us and keep them all double.
Chip away at that goal difference as well. And finally, Mark, what do you reckon?
I think it will be very, very tight, very, very, very nip and tuck, and I think we'll win 1-0 in the 83rd minute with a clever free kick that Kiefer Moore's on the end of.
Excellent. Well, lots of optimism, and fingers crossed we can get a result that puts it behind us. I'm going to close off now, but thank you so much for coming on, Jack. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and all the very best for the rest of the season, apart from when we play you again, because we need revenge.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, mate, for having me on. It was great to meet everyone on the panel tonight. And as I said, boys, best of luck for this season. Keep your heads up. And I'll be keeping an eye out on the results this season for you, boys. But yeah, thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. Great to have you on, Jack. And thank you, Douglas, as well. Thank you for coming on. I'm sure we will speak during the season. Hopefully, fingers crossed, in happier times after some good results as well.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But yeah, thank you very much for having me. And may I just say that it's an absolute pleasure to meet Mark McAdam this evening. He is one of my favourites on Sky Sports News. So it is a pleasure to meet him as well. And yeah, obviously I wish Bournemouth the best for the rest of the season for sure.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on the show, Douglas.
My pleasure. See you later.
All the best. Take care. And Max, thank you so much for coming on tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thank you very much.
And let's hope it's going to be a good result on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'll be watching it on telly. Yeah, I'll be watching it.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on, mate. And yeah, hopefully catch up with you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, Craig. Cheers.
No problem. Cheers, guys. And yeah, finally, it's just us four. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Mark, we are going to have some business in the transfer window coming through very, very soon. There's Ben Brereton Diaz that's been mentioned. And I don't know whether or not that's something that could happen. Could that be a plan C, really, for Scott Parker?
I don't want to give the game away, but I'd be surprised. They paid £7 million for him. He's into the last year of his contract. I think they probably want 15 million if they were to sell him, or certainly upwards of 12. My opinion is he good enough for the Prem? Probably not. My opinion means very little. It's obviously up to Scott and the team. I'd be surprised if that one happened, in all honesty. I'm not going to rule it out, but I'd be surprised.
Excellent. And I'm sure we will be watching closely on Thursday. We've even got a show coming up. I'm sure that you won't be able to get on it because you'll be around the grounds.
I've got a football show tomorrow, and then transfers on Wednesday, and then I'm on Bournemouth duty and EFL duty on Thursday until whenever, midnight. So I'll be in the studio most of the day.
Excellent stuff. I've just got one other question that's just come in through the comments. Bowler from Blackpool.
Josh Bowler.
Yes.
Yeah, there was interest in him in January. A couple of offers knocked back by Blackpool from Bournemouth for him. He's had a tremendous start to the season. Absolutely, he's in electric form. Again, I wouldn't want to. I don't know. That's not a name that I've had discussions with this summer. There's been an interest there. Could he be a deadline day signing? Possibly. Often it is the case with players that they monitor and watch. They don't just watch them for one window. They'll watch them for 2 windows or 3 windows and monitor their progress and how well they do. And he's certainly had a great start to the season. So maybe there'll be an interest there, but you can almost bet your life that the price that they wanted in January is not the price they want now because of the way he started the season. So yeah, it'd be an interesting one, but definitely interest in him in the past.
Yeah, definitely. And he's a good player. He's a very, very good player. I'm sure he's on the radar, but at the same time, we need to spend. It's spending sensibly, isn't it, really, at this football club? And that's what we've always done well. We've done well since Eddie Howe come in. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get some decent players across the line for decent, sensible figures.
That's it. I think that they'll be working really hard, which is all you can ask.
Yeah, I've got full faith in Maxim, Jeff, Neil, and Richard as well. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm sure they'll be doing the right things for this football club. But thank you so much for coming on the show tonight, Mark. And,
my pleasure. Sorry, a bit late.
No, that's absolutely fine. Not a problem at all. And all the very best on Thursday as well. And I'm sure it'll be a busy, busy night.
My pleasure. Anytime. Thanks, guys. Lovely to meet you all.
And you as well. All the best, Mark. Take care.
Cheers, then.
And then there was 3. The 3 originally started with. So interesting conversations tonight. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, I mean, Mark's comments were, very valid. Obviously he's a professional, isn't he? So, it's one of those that for me now we just got to forget about Saturday. It's disappointing for everybody that went there and every Cherries fan, but it's all about getting behind the lads now, and really getting Dean Court rocking on Wednesday night, and let's get some points. Because as soon as we get some more points on the board, we will be happier. Obviously, if you read in between the lines, it looks like there'd be a little bit of transfer business, and like we've said before, they tend to sometimes try and get last minute deals through the door. So from obviously what Mark's saying, that looks like what will possibly happen if we do sign anybody. So yeah, it's now just all about focusing on those next 2 games and getting behind the boys, and let's hope we get some points.
Yep, definitely. And Sam, what did you make of it all?
Yeah, I totally agree. Mark is an expert in transfers, and I totally agree with all of his points he's made tonight. I think the key for us now is the next 2 games. We've got to bring back performances like we have done in the past. For me, when we attack, we're on top form, and I really hope we can get back to that on Wednesday, which I'm sure we will. And as well, obviously, we have got a few injuries. Fredericks, Solanke's still not 100%. Kelly's obviously gone. So once we bring in our injuries as well back, hopefully we can start picking up more results.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, there was a question someone asked me today. A fan, he went up to the game on Saturday, and he said to me, what do you think of Travis's confidence after letting 9 in against Liverpool? Now, he wasn't disputing his ability. He said, you can see the keeper's got a lot of talent. But when you're a goalkeeper, you're in a very vulnerable position as a goalkeeper. Everybody can easily blame a goalkeeper for letting a goal in, but he was just questioning, do you think that at such a young age will Scott make a change? What do you think on that, you two?
I think Neto will come in. I think personally, I think it is very, very difficult for Travers. He's done a fantastic job. He helped us get out of the Championship. He was brilliant in the Championship. He didn't hardly put a glove wrong. I think the only mistakes really that I've ever really seen him make in a Bournemouth shirt was on Saturday. And that was at 7-0 down. And I think his head had dropped a little bit. That seventh goal, I think he could have done a lot better for. But hey, it wasn't going to change the result. But I think give him a rest. Give Neto the shirt for this game, because he is an experienced goalkeeper. But it's not so much, the fault of. It's not so much the fault of Mark Travers.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I wouldn't put Travs at fault for any of it. It's just when you're a goalkeeper and you're just seeing that ball fly behind you every time, it must dent the confidence.
Yeah,
and that was just what he was getting at. He was just like, well, what would you do? I mean, what do you reckon, Sam?
Yeah, obviously, I think it would be a good opportunity to let Neto take over Wednesday, but I think Scott might stick with him still. His confidence is definitely going to be knocked back, but could taking him out knock it back even more. That's another thing you've got to consider.
Yeah, it's a very funny one, isn't it? It's a difficult decisions to make with goalkeepers, isn't it? Travs didn't really put a glove on all last season. He won the Golden Glove, didn't he? I mean, he was undisputed last season as the best goalkeeper really in the Championship. And just because he's let that amount of goals in doesn't question his ability, but it does make you wonder how he feels going into the next game, doesn't it? That's just I mean, he's for me, he's Bournemouth's number one, so I hope he continues. But obviously, it's just one of them. It looks like that's got to be something that Scott's got to be weighing up.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, guys. It's as always, we're so thankful for all the support that we're getting from the fan base and everybody. There was 29 concurrent viewers at one point this evening. So thank you so much for everybody for joining in. Lots of comments as well. Please do like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that stuff as well. We do have another mark coming on, haven't we? And that video will be up tomorrow. Do you want to do the honors, Matt?
Yeah, for our Nottingham Forest preview this week, we've got a Mr. Mark Crossley, former Nottingham Forest goalkeeper, coming on. So we're going to hopefully hear some stories from his career, and we'll preview the game at the weekend.
And of course, we've got cherry picking coming up. We might also do a little bit of a transfer show as well at some point. So please do keep your eyes peeled as well. Check out all the videos on the channel. And do let us know what you think of our first live attempt. Did you enjoy it, guys?
Yeah, it was nice to speak to the Liverpool lads again, even though they did give us a hiding at the weekend. But always a pleasure to have those guys on, and it was a pleasure to have Mark on tonight as well. So hopefully he'll join us again sometime.
Yeah. I don't think he'll be joining us on Thursday, unfortunately. Just way too busy. But
he's got some more important things to do.
Yeah, definitely. Like announce it to the nation rather than just up the cherries in all departments. But yeah, thanks so much again, guys. And we'll have to do another one of these. Maybe we should start doing free-for-alls after the game. Let us know in the comments if you like the idea of that. And, you know, by all means, we can make it happen because we have got the tools to do it. But until the next video, up the cherries, and I'll see you then. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Cheerio.